Well, in 2011, Zambia became a middle-income country after more than a decade of impressive and significant socio-economic progress. Many Zambians thought that was the beginning of greater things to come. Things soon took a downward turn, and the strength and impressive growth of the years stalled, leading the country to its first recession in more than 20 years last year. As Zambians go to the polls tomorrow, they have a choice to make. One many believe will make or mar the country's progress. Ahead of that election, we discuss the issues and areas that are of interest to Zambians and the rest of the continent. Welcome to VSA. I'm Sulai. The big moment is upon us. On Thursday, August 12, Zambians will vote in the presidential, parliamentary and councillorship elections. President Edgar Lungu of the Patriotic Front will hope to see his compatriots repose the faith they had in him 5 years ago. The election in 2016 was marred with allegations of electoral malpractices as it went on to a runoff, narrowly won by Lungu against Hakainde Hichilema of the United Party for National Development. Now, a lot has changed since then, and of course, with the country now battling a festering debt crisis, a whole lot has come into the equation. Zambia's debt situation has led to the increment of taxes and the removal of subsidies on products mostly used by the ordinary Zambian. With a largely youthful population and a population growth rate of 2.8% every year, there is less room for error for Zambia, and that makes this election more important. To have a better idea of what's going down in Zambia and the mood in that country at the moment, I have three guests who will be joining me. Limwanya, he's a political analyst, Zambia, and of course, pretty much later, Lydia Maina, a journalist from Zambia, also will be joining us. But now I have with me Chibamba Kanyama, who's a former IMF Communications Advisor. Good to see you, Chibamba. And, well, should we say congratulations, because the elections finally, well, is ticking close to the big moment. So the increased taxes is one that I'll love us to start looking at, and the removal of subsidies, which have also further dampened the country's, perception about the government of President Lungu. How popular is he at the moment, especially at the grassroots?
Unfortunately, the signal, we got some internet problems today. So I'm not very sure if you're getting me, because it's very, very unstable. I've tried mobile providers to see if I have got better internet provision. However, the challenge that the country is facing today is, of course, about high cost of living. That's what everybody's complaining about. We have had a huge debt position, so the payments left government with very little resources. And of course, we have had COVID. COVID has had its own share in terms of impacting livelihoods. So we didn't generate much growth in 2020. We actually had a minus growth as an economy. So the prices of goods really skyrocketed, gone up by about 33% just within 12 months, 33%. This is unbearable for people. With high inflation standing at about 24%, and then static incomes, the majority have really been hit very, very badly. An average Zambian cannot afford to buy basic commodities for the household. And that has had implications on government, how people view President Lungu and the ruling party. Of course, there are other reasons, of course.
Well, two key things you just touched on there, Chibamba, and they're very key. And again, by the way, yes, I can hear you clearly, and I'm hoping that the connection stays so till we're done with the show. But very quickly, before we go on with the questions, let me quickly bring in Lydia Maina, who's a journalist, also joining me now on the show. Lydia, good to have you on the show. And, I started off by asking Chibamba the perception, of the very ordinary Zambian, especially those at the grassroots of President Lungu. Now, from the perspective of someone who's been covering, developments in your country as a journalist, what's the vibe you're getting from the people? Are they enthusiastic, knowing full well that this is an election happening, in a pandemic?
Well, yeah, from the ground, currently what is happening, and of course, we know that COVID-19 has an impact to this situation. Regardless that, the people are still complaining of economic situation that is happening, as Mr. Chibamba Kanyama has already explained that in details. And we see that people are really expected more than what they have as at now. So we see that others are really excited, satisfied with what they have, but others feel like they need more than what they have as at now. So we, with the current situation, the ruling party have done better well in terms of infrastructure and other things. And people really seem not really to appreciate with that. Instead, they come in to say, what are we going to eat in this? So according to the community, with what they really want is what they'll put on the table, what they want is actually with farming system, and these other these other things that they really matters to them. So the people as of now could say it's a 50-50 way, because others feel like what they have is actually enough, and then others they feel like what they have is not the best for them. Instead, they need more than what really what they deserve. So it's really a 50-50 game to them.
All right, Lydia, let me bring in Chibamba. And Chibamba, some of the key things some Africans are concerned about, talking about infrastructural development. Lydia mentioned infrastructural. She also talked about, the ordinary, just like the ordinary Nigerian and the ordinary African, he or she wants to have, food on the table. But looking at infrastructure, how would you rate President Lungu, Chibamba, knowing full well that, bringing in the Chinese to help finance some of these key projects, it would seem as if that's a big plus for the government? Well, I hope you can hear me, Chibamba.
Sorry, I missed the actual question. I heard the intro to it, but the question I lost you.
I apologize. I'll take that again. I wanted to see if we can actually rate the performance of President Lungu in terms of infrastructural development in Zambia at the moment. Bringing in the Chinese, has that helped, fixing the infrastructural deficit?
Let me say something. I'm not so sure whether my signal is on or not.
Well, go ahead, Chibamba. I can hear you. Your signal is still on.
Yeah.
Well, there seemed to be a delayed, feedback from the connection to Chibamba. Let me quickly get on to Lydia. Lydia, You said something about infrastructural development, and a lot of Africans are asking the question if the move by President Lungu did pay off. For instance, bringing the Chinese to help fix some of the infrastructural deficit, in Zambia.
Well, exactly, it did pay off because the Patriotic Front, under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Edgar Lungu, have built in a lot of, they've built in roads, they've built in hospitals, they've built in, they've opened new stadiums, they've opened airports, they've also opened intercities, and a lot, but to mention but a few. So this has contributed to him in terms of what he is building as that now. So we see that the leadership of the Edgar Lungu in terms of infrastructure, according to what people are saying, is that he is really doing the best. So he has done the best in terms of infrastructure. So the involvement of the Chinese has also helped in the country, because they have worked in hand between Zambian government and the Chinese government to make sure that in the mine sectors and the road and all these other sectors, they're working hand in hand to make to build in Zambia. So even in most of the areas in Lusaka, we see that the roads were built in, and people who used to complain of the drainages of water, they no longer complain, because they have new roads, and they also have new hospitals to those to rural areas. They have new hospitals, and also recently in Southern Province, they have an intercity. It's a big project that was recently opened for them. Also see that the airport was also reopened, and all this has been done even within this period of election. That's how he opens a new project, really, that they were completed recently. So in terms of infrastructure, he has done a better job, according to what Zambians are saying.
And Lydia, the campaigns are over now, so everyone is getting ready for the election. And the opposition in Zambia is asking why the president has sent out the military. They think that that's just to gag the opposition. So what are your findings?
Well, the army getting involved in helping the police to make sure that the electoral process and the election, that the country being at peace, is after the death of two people that were murdered, the two members of Patriotic Front in Lusaka that were murdered, and they suspected that from the UPND members murdered those people. And then that's how His Excellency Dr. Edgar Lungu took a step to deploy army in order to help the police to control the situation of violence. And it has really helped, because ever since the army came in to help the police, the situation has been calm. There were a lot of violence happening in the country. People were killed, people's property were destroyed. There were, whenever UPND and the Patriotic Front would link, there could always be something that was going on between them, and the results were really terrible, because we experienced a lot of violence that was happening. But the deploying of army came in at the right time, and it has helped the country to have a peace. So the opposition party feel it's something that will. It's something that is a threat, or it's making people not be comfortable. I mean, who would love to move around and seeing just army moving up and down like there's a war or something? So that's really, we may understand them, because it's not every day that you see army, holding in guns and just moving around your neighboring, in your compounds, and you're going to the market, maybe you want to buy something, and the army just there rotating, and it's really something that is making them uncomfortable. So they feel like their people are threatened in that position. But the aim of His Excellency Dr. Edgar Lungu is to make sure that there will be peace during this campaign. And you see that the campaign time is over. It ended at 6 p.m. today. And the Inspector of General Police, Kakoma Kanganja, issued a statement to say whoever will be found campaigning in any form will be arrested and will be dealt with. And also going to, the prediction of results, like people are so excited for this period because it's something that comes once after 5 years. So already we see that people have already started predicting, like, it's this one is going to win and this one is who's going to win. And the Inspector of General Police has also issued a statement to say the only people that are mandated to say the final say is the Electoral Commission of Zambia, and whoever is going to predict, misinformation, or to say is going to be dealt with. So the threat on citizen on seeing the army loitering around on the streets has they given the opposition like not to be comfortable. So they are saying it wasn't a great move for His Excellency to deploy the army. They thought.
All right, Lydia, just give me a moment, Lydia. Let me bring in Kennedy Limwanya, who's a political analyst in Zambia. Kennedy is joining us, has joined us by phone. Kennedy, good to have you join us. Perhaps what we're experiencing now, for instance, your inability to get on a video call with us, just the same glitch we're experiencing with Chibamba and a glitch we just also experienced with Lydia. We often see an internet shutdown in most elections on the continent. There are also insinuations that, President Lungu may be looking at this. Tell us the situation of things at the moment. Has there been any form of, activities, restricting your communication to the outside world?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Hello, Kennedy.
Hello? Yes, can you repeat the question? You are very audible.
Basically, for many African countries going into elections, we have always experienced, some form of internet shutdown. And the question is this the case in Zambia at the moment?
At the moment, internet in the country is okay. We haven't experienced so many problems. Of course, in the past few days, there are some people who say internet has been slow, and so we do expect that it won't be shut down when we begin our elections.
And Kennedy, let's talk about the main opposition in this election, who's contested for a record 5 times, Hichilema, and of course many Zambians feel that this is a chance for him to finally nick it, become president. However, they also feel the ground is not, level enough for him to emerge. So what are the key issues going on in these into these elections?
Well, like you have rightly said, Hakainde Hichilema, the main opposition party leader, has stood for election 5 times and lost. But now it appears he has managed to take the party, the UPND, back to the popularity that it had 20 years ago under the founder president Anderson Mazoka. We have seen that he has been able to make some inroads in what have all been the strongholds of the Patriotic Front in the northern part of Zambia and the eastern province. So it appears his chances now are brighter than before.
Let me bring in Chibamba quickly here. I'll come back to you, Kennedy and Lydia. Chibamba, good to know you're back, and apologies for that glitch. Now let's try and see a bit of numbers. Between 2000 and 2014, the annual real GDP was at 6.8%. It slowed to 3.1% between 2015 and 2019, thereabout. These were due to falling copper prices and reduced Greek outputs at that time. So copper prices are going high again, and investors are expectant about the IMF's special drawing rights. Do you think the IMF still has confidence in Lungu's government?
It has somehow, but it's all dependent on the nature of fiscal reforms that the government will undertake. Let's assume that he goes through this election. He has to embark on key reforms. And some of those reforms have to bring what we call fiscal consolidation, which is spending from what you have, number one, and also achieving debt sustainability. In other words, reducing the debt to GDP level, which currently stands at 100%. At the time Mr. Lungu took over power in 2015, the ratio was 45% debt to GDP, but it has doubled, which constrains government, strongly constrains government capability to source more funding for most of the projects, such that the infrastructure which we have now largely being financed by debt. So on the first front, on fiscal reforms, particularly spending within means, it will require a very strong position to remove subsidies on energy as well as agriculture that consume considerable figures on the national budget. Now, he couldn't do that before the elections. It was going to be suicidal on his part. I'm sure that if he does go through this election, he will be courageous enough to embark on these measures, tough measures, and only those measures can the IMF program, what we call the Extended Credit Facility, be provided to Zambia. Otherwise, there's willingness. Lately, the IMF, after 2 years of having no raised representative in Zambia, they now have somebody here, which means that they are very serious about the talks. It's about the commitment on the part of President Lungu to embark on reforms as a precondition.
Let me quickly bring in Kennedy here, because Kennedy, Chibamba and Lydia have both also talked about the place of COVID-19 in this election, which is novel for Zambians. Tell us what this could mean in an election happening at a time where fiscal contact is greatly restricted.
Yes, this is the first time we are having this kind of election when COVID-19, and because of that, large gatherings were banned. However, the application of this COVID restriction were very casual. We saw the ruling party, the members of the Patriotic Front, were able to go around the country without any problems at all. But whenever the opposition party, especially the leading opposition leader, Hakainde Hichilema, and the UPND, whenever they tried to mobilize, they were blocked by the police and also tear gas. And that has affected the UPND in a way because they haven't been able to campaign as much as the PF have, because the PF were being allowed to campaign without any problem at all.
Kennedy, it took 4 days, that was in 2016 election, for the last election, for the results to be announced. Are we looking at something quite different, this time around? Are you looking to seeing, this result come in less than 4 days after ballots, casting of ballots are closed?
What's the last part of the question?
Just like in 2016, a lot of Africans were worried because it took 4 days for the results of that election to be so announced. So are we looking at a similar situation or something, quite differently now that the country is going to the polls again?
You're right. It took quite long in the 2016 election for the results to be announced. And it's being hoped that things will be done differently now. It appears the members of the opposition are more alert than in the past, because like in 2016, some of the results that were announced were wrong ones, and that is why the case even went to court, although it was never really adjudicated. It is hoped that this time round, because as assured by the Election Commission of Zambia, things will be clear. Because if what was done in 2016 is repeated, then we are likely to see a lot of things.
I'll come back to you, but before I get back to Chibamba, let me quickly bring in Lydia here. Lydia, as a journalist, perhaps give us a sense of what your colleagues are going through at the moment. How is the coverage of this election going for journalists, especially, those who are coming in from outside Zambia?
Well, the Electoral Commission of Zambia stated that the result will be announced in 72 hours after the polling day. So so far the polling station, because they received ballot papers, and we checked that everything is set, and the opening will start tomorrow at 06 hours. But for other rural areas, according to the Electoral Commission of Zambia, they say that because of maybe logistics, they may start at 08 hours. That's for those that are very far, in rural areas, because of some logistics that may be delayed in. But for these other ones, it will be set tomorrow. So all the polling stations and the police being in, and the Electoral Commission of Zambia, they're doing their best, and they're doing their job very well, because everything is safe. And they have also set in, as the media people as well as journalists, we have educated people, on the importance of voting. We have helped the citizen to know that to know the importance of voting, and to know why they should vote. So we see that every citizen in Zambia, so to say that about 7 million of Zambian citizens are ready to cast in their vote tomorrow, and they know who and why they are voting for that particular person. So all the polling stations, everything as at now, I would say everything is ready, and everything is set from the polling station after being checked in all the polling stations that we have seen.
We'll go on a break. When we come back, and we'll open the conversation by asking Chibamba to help us, make sense of the unpaid interest on debts that are still stocked and yet to be paid by Zambia. That's when we return. Well, there's our overrun here on the Zambian election coming in less than 24 hours. The issues leading into tomorrow's elections have become headlines in the country, and the citizens are pumped up to cast their vote for their favorite candidates. With riches in copper, gold, and many other, many other mineral resources, the future of Zambia is promising, but its citizens believe there is an urgent need for great leadership if those riches will ever be felt. So, while Lungu's government has promised economic reforms to his own government, Hichilema says there will be a total turnaround in the ways and manner Zambia conducts its business if he emerges. So in the coming days, the continent will know who Zambians have chosen to lead over them, and hopefully it will be a choice they'll be proud of. I still have Lydia Maina, a journalist from Zambia, and of course Chibamba Kanyama, who is a former IMF Communications Advisor, and as well as Kennedy Limwanya, a political analyst. So we're driving home this, and let's quickly bring in Chibamba, and it has to do with the questions about the unpaid loans, the debts that many Africans are worried about. That is another big talking point here in your country. Unpaid interest, debts stocked up. Are there possibilities of the IMF granting those requests for financing arrangements for Zambia?
I missed the question, but I think it has to do with debt, right? It's cutting, the line is cutting, but it's to do with debt. The major thing right now, like I said earlier, it hinges on getting the IMF program. And the reason is simple. We are due our first bond matures next year. That is $750 million US. Another one in 2024, and the final one 2027. So we've got 3 Euro bonds on which we have defaulted in terms of the coupons recently because of the financial pressures as a country. Now, 2 things are critical for Zambia. This is to get the IMF program to facilitate debt restructuring. Because the creditors, both the Chinese commercial creditors, these are commercial banks who have lent to Zambia for this infrastructure anyway, as well as the Eurobond holders, who we owe about $3 billion US, which brings total owing overall to about $12 billion US external debt, plus another 45 billion kwacha, which is about roughly $2 billion US, which is in domestic debt. To restructure this debt requires that we get an IMF program to facilitate fiscal discipline. And that's all we are looking for. So the creditors are kind of given a condition to restructure. And restructuring is simply postponing the repayment period. And of course, that goes with a penalty. We hired a company called Lazard Ferrer, which is advising government on this debt restructuring. They have talked to the creditors, and they're all saying we need transparency around it, and also we need an IMF. If we don't get IMF on board, we have to start looking for money for next year. The good thing, though, is that the copper prices are very favorable, which gives us some kind of room to have a sinking fund to be able to redeem the first Eurobond next year. Otherwise, debt is what is choking the country. I saw in your statistic about the high levels of unemployment. The reason is because most of the resources being generated are really have been going to pay for the debt, especially domestic debt. If you don't redeem domestic debt, the capacity of these companies that supply to government to expand and employ people significantly limited. Thank you.
Well, let me stay with you, Chibamba, for a bit before I bring in Kennedy. And it has to do with some, development that occurred exactly a year ago, specifically in August of 2020. That's the abrupt sacking of the central bank chief. You know, that's one of the things frowned at by the IMF. What impressions do such decisions, you know, leave with the creditors, and how does this trickle down to the people? Well, I'm afraid it looks like I lost the connection to Chibamba. And Kennedy, let me quickly bring in...
The actual... You talked about August. I missed something there about August last year.
Okay, Chibamba, all right, Chibamba, I'm referring to the sacking of the central bank governor August of 2020.
Right. Yeah, of course, it wasn't taken very well by the market. They saw it as a way of compromising the independence of the central bank, and that was the major complaint by the market. And when I talk about the market, it refers to international investors too. So the measures may have not gone well internally as well. However, we have seen lately, just in the past 2 weeks, that the kwacha suddenly appreciated in value. There was an auction which saw oversubscription by 111% by offshore investors coming to Zambia, and these were running away from high inflation levels in the USA and others. So we have kind of seen the impact of the higher copper prices, and I really put it on the higher copper prices as well, that have benefited Zambia, and also the fact that we have defaulted on the coupons. We have defaulted on coupons. The overall arrears on debt stand at over 900 million. So Zambians are aware about much of this. Our government has been communicating this information. We have it, and it all hinges on what impact debt has had. Of course, we have had a holiday for about 8 months now of not paying on the Eurobond. If we were paying that amount of money, first of 45 million, another 50 million, and I think another latest one recently, we would really be talking about an impact on the reserves. But so far now, the copper prices have contributed significantly, allowing the central bank in the last 9 months to pump in the market about 645 million US dollars, which have kind of contained the depreciation of the kwacha.
All right, Chibamba, let me bring in Kennedy. Kennedy, good to know you're still there for us, and thanks for your patience and your time. And quickly here, you know, many have accused President Lungu of economic mismanagement. Does this, change of leadership guarantee a turnaround, or rather, does a change of leadership guarantee a turnaround if people think, now looking at the side of those who think that he hasn't actually done well in that regard, talking about the economy. But for Lydia, she said, well, he's been able to do a few things concerning, in the area rather, of infrastructural development. But on the economic mismanagement, as alleged by some Zambians, do you think this will guarantee victory for some of those who are looking to see a new president?
You talk about infrastructure development? What did you say about infrastructure development?
I'm afraid you're not too audible for me to actually, get your communication, Kennedy. Perhaps maybe we need to reestablish that connection. Let me bring in Lydia while we get that done. Lydia, there are 16 candidates for the presidential election. Are there possibilities of a coalition happening even in the last minute to this election?
Well, recently we saw that they had a debate where all the 16 presidential candidates were called in to say something concerning why they are standing to, why is it that they are the right leaders for this nation. And we saw that only 14 attended that, and 2 of them, His Excellency Dr. Edgar Lungu, did not come in for that debate, and Hakainde Hichilema from the UPND also did not attend that debate. But for the 4 that attended that debate, we saw that they said they're based on why people should vote for them. Everybody, most of them, they targeted on the development of the country, that the economical party that the country needs to be, there's much to be done when it comes to the economy of the country, and that each and every candidate said that he is the best candidate to be, or he is the best person to win this presidential election, because they will handle the nation to a better level when in terms of economic. So we saw that the dollar, as Mr. Chibamba Kanyama said, it was down, but now it is appreciating during this election. So it's and a lot really had happened during this period of time. We also saw that there was load shedding. We also saw that there was mishandling of things. We also saw that there were a lot of money that was they were building that were built, and without knowing who the one of those houses in the 42 houses. We also saw that the fire attendants there and the rest of, to mention but few. So there were a lot of disgrading to what the government has really not done to this nation. So all these, let me say 15 of the candidates are opposing to say that we are the best comparing to this one who is ruling, because we will make sure that there will be no more corruption, there will be no more this, and it's really for the it's in the power of Zambia citizens to choose who their best leader is going to be, and the voting is their secret. But so far, we see that the 2 that are leading is His Excellency Dr. Edgar Lungu, and of course the UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema, who has been campaigning to, have been standing to be the president of this nation for, 5th time now. This one is going to be the 6th time. So we see that, we wish him the best, to see that whether the citizens of Zambia are going to choose him, or they are going to remain, they are going to choose the one that is ruling. But for the rest 14, their chances is there that they are saying what their promises are really positive. But it is to Zambian to decide whether they stand a chance to be the next president of this nation.
All right, Lydia, 54% of those registered to vote in this election are, aged 34 and below, an age bracket believed to comprise those mostly affected by Lungu's policies. So how much of an impact will this demographic make tomorrow?
Yeah, as I said, the percentage of those people that are really registered for this, they are youths. Youths are really involved in this election, and they are so eager to this election. But as for now, it's so unpredictable to see that what they are saying on social media is really what they're going to do on that actual day, which is tomorrow. And we can say that for now, the right, the final say can only be said after the final result, which will be given by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. So what is being said as at now, we could say that it's really some people are saying the opposite of what they feel like, regarding to see that most of the youths are following in what is given to them, and then they are so unpredictable to what they are saying and what they are doing. They're doing the opposite of what they are saying. So we see that as at now, we cannot really say what is going to happen or what is the best to come, because it's something that is so unpredictable, and it is really to the opposite of for now, we can just say that we will say better things after the result has been produced, because predicting of all this to what the ratios or what the positivity is happening, considering what we hear on social media or on radios or with people, it will give us a wrong figure, because we may end up saying the wrong thing, because people are so predictable as of now. Current situation in Zambia, Zambians are so predictable. They're so unpredictable, because you cannot tell what they are going to do. You cannot, say something according to what they are saying, but instead their action says more to what their word means.
Let me bring in Chibamba here before we close. And well, Chibamba, listening to Lydia, she said something about the debates. Isn't it amazing that, the front, runners to this election abstained from a debate as important as a presidential debate? What does this make, for those people that are termed the undecided voters?
Well, I suspect that the advisors to the two front runners told them it was not worth it. First of all, President Lungu has never wanted debates. He has never debated. He doesn't like press conferences. He rarely addresses people except for a scripted, something scripted like addressing the nation like he's doing now, and also maybe at airport or somewhere, but addressing the media, addressing the press, responding to questions, he rarely does that. And for the other, Mr. Hichilema, he did the previous elections, he participated, but because there has been significant restrictions in airspace that he could not easily fly, getting airspace, flight permit was very difficult for him. Previously, I'm told he could fly for a debate from 700 kilometers away from Lusaka. He would fly for the evening debate and then fly back to continue with his rallies. But because of the pressure and because of the restrictions on airspace, he could not manage. And that was his explanation, which was read out. They should have an interest to participate in these debates. But because of the space given for campaigns, there was no space for people to campaign, for political parties to campaign, to reach out to their electorates, because most of the electorates wanted to be visited. They don't have access to television. Some of them can't speak English because the debates were in English. So these candidates had to go to where they were. They had to visit them in the rural areas, in these outflung places. So they could not just be here to communicate to the elite on television. They had to visit them. So that's the reason you saw that the participation by the top two was absent in this election.
I think you raise a very key point here, known full well that there were some restrictions caused by COVID in their campaigns. The debate would have actually given them an opportunity to address the people. But again, the Patriotic Front has ruled Zambia for about a decade now. Now, we're talking a little bit of party politics, and there have been widespread complaints about the ruling party. Do you think majority of Zambians, especially those in Zambia and those in the diaspora, are looking to get in a new political party to steer the affairs of the country?
Yes and no. No, because there's this hype about the infrastructure development and that programs must continue. That's on one hand. Yes, because I think others are looking beyond just infrastructure. Of course, this infrastructure is understood to have been overpriced and is concentrated mainly in Lusaka and its debt. And apart from it being debt, the development, the construction of this infrastructure had very little or limited backward and forward linkages within the Zambian economy, because the contractor, the raw material, almost everything was from either China or from India. So the constructing companies were from China. For the high flyover bridges, the contracting companies from India. So there was no real benefit. And this is a big thing. This is a big thing, because the issue really is, how can we do this differently? Zambians did not really benefit in the actual construction of this infrastructure, because infrastructure is more than just putting the bridge or airport. The real benefit is in the companies that construct, because that's where you create the jobs and you return the money within the country. That did not happen. So that's on one hand. And two is how Zambians are really asking questions about how can we manage proper governance? How can we manage and arrest corruption? And that's where you hear the other voices saying, maybe a new government can manage this. So I'll really say yes and no. Others are saying, well, let's continue with it. Others feel like we need fresh air, proper governance, or proper accountability, transparency in government systems. So these are the two things that you are getting. And many in the diaspora now are beginning to really ask those questions.
Well, I think it's a fine place for us to leave it. But Chibamba, I have a personal question for you. And if we can do this in maybe about 10 seconds. Have you started taking classes on Mandarin?
Come again, what's the question?
Have you started taking classes on Mandarin? How to speak Chinese?
You know what? The Chinese are learning the local languages now. I listen to one Chinese speaking the local language better than I can do. So they're actually learning the local.
That's awesome. Thank you for your time, Chibamba. Always a delight speaking with you here. Many thanks for being such a nice company, Kennedy Limwanya. Kennedy, apologies for the bad, connection to you. And of course, Chibamba Kanyama and Lydia Maina. Lydia, we hope to speak to you in the course of the election. Yes, tomorrow. Good to have all of you on the show. And hopefully we'll see you again to discuss the future of Zambia after the elections. I'm Sulaiman. Bye for now.